The 2026 schedule is littered with marquee matchups, but there are three games that stand out as our favorites. This is Locked On Patriots.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening? I am your host, Nick Cattles. On today's episode, we've got the very latest on Kayshon Boutte's status and why it could get very interesting. In the second segment, there's one stretch of games the Pats have to take advantage of this season. But first, our three favorite matchups for 2026. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. We talked about the schedule late last week when it was released. We went live on YouTube last Thursday night to break it down. This schedule in 2026 for the Patriots, it is loaded. Plenty of intriguing and compelling matchups that you can look at. But I wanted today to break down our three favorite matchups of this loaded schedule. And now I want to point out that these are three favorite matchups aside from opening week, because we went deep into the Super Bowl rematch last week when the schedules came out. So these are our three favorite matchups on this schedule aside from the Super Bowl rematch week 1 in Seattle. Let's start with week 4. Week 4 at Buffalo. Now, this is the end of a very tough 4-game stretch, which we discussed in our last podcast, right? At Seattle to start the year. Then you come home to play the Steelers. And as we know, the Steelers will have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. That has been made official over the weekend. And then you have to travel to Jacksonville. Now, you go back a couple of years ago, traveling to Jacksonville, yeah, the heat, it's a problem, especially this early in the season. But beyond the heat, it's a game you should win. Well, now you're going to Jacksonville, dealing with the heat and dealing with a good football team that went to the playoffs last year, actually hosted the Buffalo Bills. And if a couple of things fell differently, they would have advanced in the playoffs against Josh Allen and company. So the end of a 4-game stretch, you go at Seattle, back home to play Pittsburgh, then to the road in the heat against a good Jacksonville Jaguars team, to then go to Buffalo week 4. So that is the end of a very tough stretch. And you could argue Buffalo is actually the toughest game in that stretch. Josh Allen, Drake Maye, that battle. We are going to see this battle play out twice a year, hopefully for the next 8, 9, 10 years. You feel good about that. As a Patriots fan, Drake Maye's younger. Obviously, Josh Allen is older than Drake. So, maybe he's got 7, 8, maybe 9, maybe more than that. But who knows how many years he has left. But for right now, the immediate future, at least for the next 5 or 6 years, Josh Allen versus Drake Maye is going to be the quarterback battle in the AFC East. You've got somebody who is an MVP quarterback in Josh Allen going against the guy who was the runner-up to the MVP last year in Drake Maye. So every single time these two quarterbacks do battle, even though it's not one-on-one like on a basketball court, every time you have these two quarterbacks on the same field dueling it out, it is a worthwhile matchup. On top of that, this will be the Patriots' first game in the Bills' new stadium, Highmark Stadium. So that place is going to be loud. It's not the first game at Highmark Stadium. That will already be done by the time the Patriots show up week 4. But this division rivalry, we know Bills fans love to try to stick it to the Patriots. We know Patriots fans love to stick it to the Bills and the Bills fans. So this atmosphere should be absolutely freaking electric in Buffalo for this matchup against the Patriots. It's an early tone setter for the division. Patriots won the division, obviously, in 2025, but you know for a fact, I know for a fact, Buffalo wants to prove that was a fluke. Buffalo wants to reassume dominance within the division. So this would be an early tone setter for the AFC East. The Patriots, was 2025 a fluke, or was this the beginning of a battle tooth and nail for the division. And the Bills are an interesting team. The DJ Moore addition, Bradley Chubb, CJ Gardner-Johnson, two of their big pickups defensively. Are they going to be enough? Rookie head coach Joe Brady, how is he working out by the end of his first month as a head coach in the NFL? Second matchup I want to talk about, Week 15 at Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes, Drake Maye. Similar idea with the Josh Allen versus Drake Maye battle. Patrick Mahomes versus Drake Maye. Now, some might say this could be the passing of the torch. I would not say that. I think Patrick Mahomes has a decent amount of football left in his body, in his mind. But it will be interesting to see how Maye stacks up to Mahomes, who has been the best quarterback of his generation. How does Maye stack up year 3? This will be late in the season, Week 15. So almost 3 full years under the belt in the NFL for Drake at that point. Playing in Kansas City, Monday Night Football. The crowd's going to be all sorts of lubed up for this matchup. It is going to be loud. There are going to be tons of pomp and circumstance everywhere you look. ESPN is going to be pumping the tires of this game the entire week leading into it. Where are both teams in the standings? Are the Chiefs as good as we think they could be if Mahomes is back at full health? Where are the Patriots after what they did last year? There's already a lot of doubt. There are already people nationally. I saw Ryan Clark talking about this late last week. The Patriots aren't even going to make the playoffs. It's already starting. The doubt is already starting. We are still going to hear about last year's schedule throughout the majority of this season. Get ready for it mentally. It's going to happen. But where are both teams in reality? Week 15 at Kansas City, Monday Night Football. Are we talking about two of the best teams in the AFC? Are we talking about two teams who are fighting for their playoff lives? Are we talking about two division leaders? We don't know. Fascinating game to watch. And of course, this will be December 21st, right before Christmas. What is the weather going to look like in Kansas City? And is there separation between these two teams? Has one team separated itself from the other? Are the Patriots near the top of the AFC and Kansas City is fighting for their playoff lives? Or is Kansas City back near the top of the heap and the Patriots have slid back? Week 15 at Kansas City. And then I wrap it up. Third favorite matchup against the Broncos, Week 17. Of course, you get the rematch of the AFC Championship game. It's kind of cool. The Patriots, they kick their season off, rematch of the Super Bowl, and then they don't end their season with the rematch of the AFC Championship game, but the penultimate game of the regular season will be the rematch of the AFC Championship game. And, I think a lot of Broncos fans are going to sit there and say, we'll see. If Bo Nix is healthy, we will see how the AFC Championship game would have actually played out if we had, quote unquote, our starting quarterback out there, right? I think that's going to be a big question. If both quarterbacks are healthy and you're heading into Week 17 and both teams are playing fairly well and both teams are in the playoff conversation, maybe both teams have separated themselves. Maybe we're talking about the 1 and 2 seed again in the AFC. That question will be brought up ad nauseum that week. Get ready for it. Yes, the Patriots beat the Broncos in the AFC Championship game, but it was a blizzard in the second half for all intents and purposes, and the Broncos did not have Bo Nix. How much did Nix's absence impact that result? Now, of course, the game will not be in Denver this year, so that's going to be another big difference, but you get the point. Will playoff seeding be involved here? We're talking Week 17. Is this the game where it's the difference of you getting the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed? Can you win the division? Or are you trying to fight for your wild card lives and you're looking around the rest of the conference to see where teams are stacking up and who they're playing that week? Are divisions on the line? Are the Broncos trying to fend off anybody in the AFC West? Are the Patriots trying to fend off the Bills in the AFC East? We will have that revisited matchup of the Broncos pass rush against the New England Patriots offensive line. And of course, at this point, 15 games would have been played, so we should have a really, really good idea as to how good this Patriots offensive line truly is. Has Will Campbell survived the season? Has he thrived throughout the season? How's he feeling as we get to Week 17? And Gillette should be absolutely lit for that game, Week 17. If both teams are fighting for their playoff positioning, that is going to be a very loud and involved Gillette Stadium for Patriots, Broncos, that AFC Championship game rematch. So 3 games, our favorites aside from the opener in Seattle, week 4 at Buffalo, week 15 at Kansas City, and week 17 hosting the Broncos. Coming up, the stretch that could end up making or breaking the 2026 season. This is Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Filling an open position shouldn't feel like a shot in the dark. When your inbox is overflowing and you're feeling the pressure, you need a system that works. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Instead of just hoping for a lucky break, Indeed sponsored jobs targets the candidates who meet your criteria for location and experience. The data proves it works. Every single minute, 27 hires are made on Indeed worldwide. Think about that. 27 people found their next role in the time it will take me to tell you about Indeed. It's time to spend less time on the search and more time on the interview. Get your job the premium status it deserves with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Support the podcast by heading to Indeed.com/podcast and telling them that we sent you. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, go to Indeed.com/podcast. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. This 2026 schedule is tough, but there is a stretch in the second quarter of the season that opens the door to stacking some wins. Thank you for making us your first listen and for being an everydayer. Don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club for ad-free episodes and access to a group chat with other listeners of this show. Tap the link in the show notes to find out more, or go to LockedOnPatriots.supercast.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. Help a brother out. Help this podcast out. Click that thumbs up. Give us a like. Helps us with the algorithm. Don't forget to throw a comment in as well. What are your 3 favorite matchups on this schedule now that we have the official schedule in front of us? Your 3 favorite matchups. I'd love to know which 3 stand out to you the most. And don't forget to subscribe. We are inching towards 9,700 subscribers. The goal is 10,000. That's the next one on the list we need to check off. So don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and sub. We have established, I think, with this schedule that weeks 1 through 4 and weeks 12 through 15 are tough. They're very tough. And it's not crazy to believe the Patriots could be 1-3 after the first month of the season. You could easily look at this schedule and say they lose the opener against Seattle in Seattle. They come back home. They beat the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers in week 2. Little revenge for the Pats after losing last year to that team. Hopefully the Patriots don't turn the football over 5 times again. Then you head down to Jacksonville. You deal with the Heat. You deal with the good football team. You lose that one. And then you go to Buffalo, and you're playing at Buffalo, new stadium. Josh Allen has a good game. Next thing you know, you're looking up, and you're 1-3. It's not a crazy scenario to lay out. And if you are 1-3, if you start the season 1-3, then you have to take advantage of what I'm going to call the soft second quarter of the schedule. The soft second quarter of this schedule. It starts in week 5. You know, after you get through those first 4 games, you get back home after the Buffalo game, which is good because you're not traveling a lot, right? That Buffalo game on that Sunday, week 4, is a 1:00 kick. So you get out of Buffalo, you get back home, you're in your own bed early enough on Sunday, and then you focus on the task at hand the next Sunday, which is week 5 against the Raiders. So you're hosting Vegas. Of course, one of the biggest questions, who's going to be the Raiders quarterback in week 5? Could the Raiders decide to kind of slow roll, slow play the Fernando Mendoza experience and wait a little while until putting him out there and starting Kirk Cousins for the first month or so? Or do the Raiders say, nope, we're throwing Mendoza right in. He's the #1 pick overall. We're playing the guy. Now, I think it's probably going to be the latter and not the former, but we still have to keep it open for conversation. This could be Kirk Cousins against the Patriots week 5. You also have the disclaimer, Max Crosby. Max Crosby can ruin any game. So he's going to be a tough matchup for that offensive line, no matter where he's lining up, whether it's against Morgan Moses or Will Campbell. He is obviously a handful, but that is a game you should win. Then you stay home. So you've got Buffalo, short trip home. then you host Vegas, and then you host the Jets week 6. And look, I know we could look back at Geno Smith last year in totality and say he wasn't good, but I don't think any of us will forget that Geno Smith played really well against the Patriots in week 1 last year. And Geno Smith has played pretty well against the Patriots, if recent memory serves me correct. So there is a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde with Geno Smith. It's Geno Smith versus a lot of other teams, Geno Smith versus the Patriots. Will that continue, or do the Patriots have a firm handle on this, a firm grasp? The Jets offense is actually not that bad, honestly. I mean, if you look on paper, of course, you got the quarterback questions, but Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, they drafted Omar Cooper Jr., they drafted Kenyon Sadiq. They've got decent names, if not good names, when you look at this Jets depth chart offensively for this upcoming season. They just signed Tim Patrick, a bigger receiver, who I think could also help a little bit in the pass game as a big target. Their offensive line is pretty good. So it's not like the Jets absolutely stink or are devoid of talent offensively. The biggest question is the quarterback. Breece Hall is a really good running back. And of course, the other big question about the Jets is Aaron Glenn. Is he actually a decent head coach? Last year, he was awful. Last time we saw Aaron Glenn, he was taking a little nappy nap during the NFL Combine in February. So where's his head at? He's going to be the defensive play caller as well as the head coach. Now, if I'm the Jets, I'm not loving that idea. I saw Glenn as the head coach last year make plenty of mistakes. I'd want all of his focus on that job, but I don't run the Jets. So the Jets, interesting team, but they should not win a lot of games. The Patriots should win that game week 6. Then you get to the toughest game of the soft second quarter, and that is the game week 7 at Chicago against the Bears, Thursday Night Football, easily the toughest of the stretch. It is good to note that the Bears and the Patriots both will have the 3 days rest in between games, so it's not like Chicago is going to have extra rest. Both teams play on that Sunday prior to this matchup week 7, but you still just hate Thursday Night Football. Thursday Night Football is clunky, it's funky. It's usually not the best game to watch. Sometimes you have blowouts because a team just doesn't show up. But let's say both teams show up. You got Thursday Night Football, primetime matchup at Chicago, cool place to play. The two young quarterbacks, as we know, there's going to be a lot to talk about that week with Caleb Williams versus Drake Maye. We're all going to go back to the 2024 draft and revisit that draft. And should Maye have gone first? Was Caleb Williams the right guy to select first overall? And blah, blah, blah. That stuff is going to be all over the place leading into that Thursday night game. You've got Ben Johnson versus Mike Vrabel. That's an enticing head coach matchup. I do have some questions about the Chicago defense, but Chicago, they should be a good football team. They have an incredibly difficult schedule. They might take a slight step back or a full step back. We'll see where they are by week 7, but week 7, that's a tough game. And then you wrap it up week 8 at Miami. And I know Miami, we've got all sorts of PTSD dealing with Miami. Now, last year was a crazy game in Miami. You had the high-scoring Banana Land game where, Miami had a punt return. I think they also had a kickoff return for touchdowns. Antonio Gibson had his kickoff return for a touchdown. Just an absolutely insane game down in Miami. That was earlier in the year. So you look at week 8. The good thing is you'd rather play in Miami in early November than late September, right? I'd rather have this game on November 1st than, let's say, September 20th, because it's going to be at least a little bit cooler down in Miami at that point. Now, anything can happen, especially with our current weather all over the place. So maybe you get hit with like a 95-degree day on November 1st. That's certainly not out of the question, but you would take your chances. If you were to ask Mike Vrabel, when would he rather play in Miami, November 1st or September 20th, he would pick November 1st every single day of the week, plus twice on Sunday. You see what I did there. The Dolphins are rebuilding. They're a rebuilding football team. The Patriots will have extra rest heading into this game because of the game we just discussed in Chicago, Thursday Night Football. So the Patriots will have the mini bye going into Miami. Miami, if you're wondering, has regular rest going into that game. So the Patriots have an advantage there. And so if you look at this schedule, the soft second quarter, as I'm calling it, you've got, Vegas week 5, you should win that. Jets week 6, you should win that. Of course, we don't know injuries and all that stuff. This is in the middle of May. We're discussing these games, but you should win those 2 games. Chicago is going to be tough. You might lose that one, but you should win in Miami, given the extra time that you get to prepare for them and the fact that they're just a far inferior team than you are on paper. So if you started 1-3, you should right the ship, and you should be looking at 4-4 at worst. I mean, that stretch right there, you've got to go 3-1, if not 4-0 in that stretch. If you go 4-0, now all of a sudden you're 5-3, and the trajectory, it's going the right direction. Now, if you go somehow like 2-2 or worse in that stretch, that could be a tough situation, and you could be on your way going downhill and fast. So that soft second quarter of games, you've got to take care of business. You got to beat the teams you should beat, and then hopefully find a way to win in Chicago. You go 4-0, if you start the year 1-3, you go 4-0 in that stretch, 2 games above 500, and you're kind of racing towards the second half of the schedule, which again we know is pretty darn tough. But you'd be in decent shape. You just have to make sure to take advantage of that month of football. Coming up, the latest on Kayshon Boutte and what it means for all involved. This is Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The NBA playoffs are happening right now, and every possession matters. If you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. Turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. You'll like using FanDuel during the playoffs because everything you need is right there in one place. You can check stats, trends, and matchups before making your picks, which makes the whole experience feel a lot more informed. Whether you're looking at player props or just following your favorite stars, it adds another level of excitement to every single solitary game. It's really also an easy app to navigate when you check it out. It makes playoff basketball even more engaging from start to finish. Again, right now, new customers, $5 bet gets $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Kayshon Boutte is on track to be sent out from Foxborough, but Mike Reese's latest sets up an interesting set of questions in one possibly uncomfortable scenario. Thanks for checking out the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Don't forget, as you watch on YouTube, to like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate every single solitary one of you for checking out this podcast. If you like what we do, keep on coming. Keep on coming back and hanging out with us. All right, all signs continue to point to A.J. Brown being a Patriot. Those same signs are pointing to a Kayshon Boutte trade that it feels like we've been talking about for almost as long as the A.J. Brown stuff. But the latest from Mike Reese is noteworthy. Here's what Reese wrote at ESPN.com. Romeo Doubs highlighted Matt Collins, Demario Pop Douglas, Kyle Williams, and Efton Chisholm III as receivers who have helped him acclimate to the Patriots system through the first 4 weeks of the voluntary offseason program. Mike Reese then notes, it caught the ear that Kayshon Boutte was not included as he has been working out away from the facility. So Romeo Doubs, meeting with the media last week, said, hey, thanks to Mac Hollins and Pop Douglas and Kyle Williams and Efton Chisholm III for helping me out with this offense, helping me get acclimated through the first, 4 weeks of this voluntary offseason program. The one name Doubs did not bring up was Kayshon Boutte because Kayshon Boutte has not been there. He's not hanging out with the guys at the facility. He's nowhere to be seen. He's working out away from the facility on his own. Now, not on his own all by himself on a field in a land of nowhere. He obviously has a team around him, but he's away from the facility. So, all parties continue to just wait for the inevitable here. Kayshon Boutte is going to get traded. You're not staying away from the facility if there's any chance that you're hanging around for 2026. This is the clearest signal that Boutte is going to be gone. Again, not a matter of if, just a matter of when. One of the questions I do have, though, reading this is, all right, Kayshon Boutte's away from the facility. He has had injury history, as we know. He had a significant injury history at LSU. Is he getting periodically checked by the Patriots medical staff? I would imagine so. But how does this type of arrangement work out? Did the Patriots say, hey, Kayshon, yeah, you could stay away from the facility. We're going to trade you eventually. You know it. I know it. So it's cool. You can do your own thing wherever you are. But ... we have to check on you medically at least every few days, every week, every couple weeks. How does that work? What's that communication like? You want to make sure when you're talking to teams about trading them Kayshon Boutte, you want to make sure that Boutte is healthy. You want to make sure he's doing what he's got to do. Are those teams checking up on him? I doubt it. He's not a part of their team until he's officially traded. So how does that work? I don't know. The question that I can't answer myself. I also think it's pretty obvious the Patriots have close to zero leverage with this whole Boutte thing. Like, everybody knows he's gone. You had the leaks about him, talks happening, and, teams know that he's available and all that stuff from Jordan Schultz before the draft. Now we're finding out he's not even at the facility. And if I know that, everybody in the NFL knows that. And if they did not know that before Mike Reese wrote this, then they certainly know that now. So how much leverage do you have? Pretty much none. The NFL world knows that you're going to move Kayshon Boutte. Now, of course, ultimately it depends if you can get a couple of teams interested. Then you might be able to drive up the price a little bit. It also makes you wonder, since Boutte's not at the facility and this all kind of seems set in stone to happen, much like the A.J. Brown thing, it begs the question, is Kayshon Boutte part of the Eagles trade? Now, to me, on the surface, it doesn't make any sense. I find it hard to believe after trading for Dontavian Wicks, trading up and drafting Mekhi Lemon, signing Hollywood Brown, signing Elijah Moore, having Devontae Smith already in the room. Those are 5 names I just gave you. And the Eagles have 1 or 2 other guys who have been with the team that already know the offense. Now, they are changing the offense, but at least, they're aware of, Jalen Hurts and his strengths, and they have some kind of relationship and chemistry with Nick Sirianni and the rest of the offense on the field. So it just doesn't seem like Boutte would be a fit in Philly. Maybe Philly plans on spinning him to another team, but it's kind of an extra added obstacle to all of this. So I still don't think Kayshon Boutte is part of this Philadelphia deal. So, what happens if Boutte is not part of that Philadelphia deal? How do the Patriots deal with this? I mean, if he's away from the facility, is he going to stay away from the facility until camp? If you have not been able to find him a home, does he just come into camp and act like there's no big deal? Again, he's going to be 4th or 5th on the depth chart at that point, given A.J. Brown's presence. You're not going to give him really any meaningful reps with Drake Maye because you don't think he's going to be here in 2026 during the season. So does he just kind of stay away from the facility until a deal shows itself, until somebody gets hurt on another team and that opens the door? Like, how do you deal with that, right? If you don't have Kayshon Boutte as part of that Eagles deal, then how do you handle the situation? Does he just continue to stay away until he's dealt? Is that fair to him? Is that fair to the team that's going to trade for him? I believe that Mike Vrabel is set to speak to the media, by the way, on May 27th. So we're about a week and a half away from the next time Vrabel speaks to the media. I would have to imagine somebody is going to ask him about Kayshon Boutte if a trade is not done by then. I would hope that somebody asks Vrabel about Boutte. And, if you deal Boutte before camp, it still feels like it's going to be the type of trade that's Kayshon Boutte and a 6th-round pick for a 5th-round pick type of deal. That's still my expectation. It's been my expectation really from the beginning of these talks. Boutte and a 6th for a 5th. I know Jalen Polk went for like a 6th, right, to New Orleans last year before the season kicked off. So, maybe you're willing to give up a 6th to bump up to a 5th. I mean, maybe you can get a team to get you a 4th. I'd be ecstatic if you could get a fourth back, but I'm shooting for a fifth. So that way, if you get a fourth, I'll be very happy. It'll exceed my expectations. But we'll see what happens. I still think it's a day 3 pick. That wraps up this edition of Locked On Patriots. Thank you for making us your first listen, for being an everydayer. Reach out to me on Twitter at NickCRadio, and don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel. Hit that like button. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Patriots ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonpatriots.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn even more. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.